The impact of the Pillow Book on contemporary Japanese culture. The Pillow Book is a classic work of Japanese literature that was written by Sei Shonagon during the Heian period, 794 to 1185 CE. The book is a collection of essays, observations, and anecdotes about life at the imperial court in Kyoto, and offers a unique glimpse into the cultural and social mores of Heian-era Japan. Although the Pillow Book was written over 1,000 years ago, its impact on contemporary Japanese culture can still be felt today. In this article, we will explore the ways in which the Pillow Book has influenced contemporary Japanese culture. Fashion. One of the most visible ways in which the Pillow Book has influenced contemporary Japanese culture is through fashion. The book contains detailed descriptions of the clothing, accessories, and hairstyles worn by the women of the imperial court, and these descriptions have inspired modern designers and fashionistas. The book's influence can be seen in the popularity of traditional Japanese clothing such as the kimono and the obi, as well as in the use of traditional Japanese motifs in contemporary fashion. Beauty. Another area in which the Pillow Book has had a significant impact is in the realm of beauty. The book contains detailed descriptions of beauty rituals, cosmetics, and grooming practices, and these descriptions have inspired modern beauty trends. The book's influence can be seen in the popularity of traditional Japanese beauty practices such as the use of rice bran for exfoliation, as well as in the rise of modern Japanese beauty brands that draw on traditional Japanese ingredients and techniques. Literature. The Pillow Book has also had a profound influence on contemporary Japanese literature. The book's lyrical and poetic prose style has inspired generations of Japanese writers, and its themes of love, loss, and the passing of time continue to resonate with contemporary readers. The book's influence can be seen in the work of modern Japanese writers such as Haruki Murakami, who has cited the Pillow Book as a major influence on his writing. Art. The Pillow Book has also had a significant impact on Japanese art. The book's descriptions of nature, architecture, and everyday life have inspired generations of Japanese artists, and its influence can be seen in traditional Japanese art forms such as ukiyo-e prints and the tea ceremony. The book's influence can also be seen in contemporary Japanese art, where artists continue to draw on traditional Japanese aesthetics and motifs in their work. Pop culture. Finally, the Pillow Book has had an impact on contemporary Japanese pop culture. The book's influence can be seen in popular anime and manga series that draw on traditional Japanese themes and aesthetics, as well as in the popularity of traditional Japanese crafts as calligraphy and origami. The book's influence can also be seen in the popularity of Japanese pop culture around the world, where Japanese fashion, beauty, and art continue to inspire and captivate audiences. Conclusion. The Pillow Book is a classic work of Japanese literature that has had a profound impact on contemporary Japanese culture. The book's influence can be seen in the realms of fashion, beauty, literature, art, and pop culture, where its descriptions of life at the imperial court continue to inspire and captivate audiences. The book's enduring popularity is a testament to its timeless themes of love, loss, and the passing of time, and to its lyrical and poetic prose style. The Pillow Book is a true cultural treasure that continues to enrich and inspire Japanese culture and society. Written over 1,000 years ago, Sei Shonagon's The Pillow Book continues to influence Japanese culture today. The collection of lists, anecdotes, and observations by the Heian court lady provide insight into aristocratic life in 11th century Japan while demonstrating a playful, inquisitive, and insightful mind. The work's blending of simplicity, subjectivity, and aesthetic sensibility helped shape modern Japanese aesthetics and sensibilities in myriad ways. Perhaps most notably, the Pillow Book popularized the concept of wabi-sabi, which values imperfection, asymmetry, and the beauty of transience. In her lists of elegant things and unsightly things, Shonagon highlights asymmetrical or faded objects that exude a spirit of quiet modesty over lavish displays. Food past its prime and things faded by time possess authenticity and subtle appeal. This appreciation of asymmetry, imperfection, and the serenely incomplete finds echoes in contemporary Japanese aesthetics that embrace the worn, weathered, and askew. The text also introduced the concept of yugen, conveying profound feelings through suggestion and restraint. These aesthetic ideals influence Japanese art, design, cuisine, and culture today. Shonagon's writing style, which blends wit, subjectivity, and selective detail, also resembles modern Japanese literary nonfiction. Her anecdotes of courtly life read like short episodic stories even as they showcase her keen observational powers. Shonagon's description of cherry blossoms from within the palace suggests a carefully rendered and poetic inner world, anticipating psychological realism in later Japanese fiction. Her creative use of language through lyrical wordplay and affection for neologisms continues in contemporary writing that embraces unorthodoxy and individual expression over conformity. Overall, the Pillow Book exemplifies a uniquely Japanese blend of intimacy, subjectivity, aestheticism, and understatement that has expanded Japanese literature and culture. Furthermore, Shonagon's lists provide a window into Heian aristocratic life that evokes the illusion of immediacy and accessibility. Like social media today, her observations can transport readers into another world while creating a sense of connection across time. Her interests in seemingly mundane details like food, beauty regimens, and gossip prefigure contemporary Japanese tastes for kawaii or cuteness, vastly popular lists and trends that value superficial and mundane pleasures. Ironically, an ancient court lady's writings presaged Japan's culture of instant access, distraction, and consumerism. Ultimately, the Pillow Book exhibits a distinctive Japanese mix of reserve and irreverence, formality and eccentricity, depth and frivolity that is quintessentially Moe, evoking strong affection and enjoyment. Shonagon's voice, subjective, playful yet insightful, continues to charm modern readers looking for respite from a complex world. Her work demonstrates how a combination of aesthetic sensibility, idiosyncratic perspective, and acute observations can transform the ordinary into something extraordinary. This alchemy animates contemporary Japanese nonfiction, fiction, design, and popular culture that aims to uncover hidden beauty in everyday life. In this way, the Pillow Book helped define much of what makes Japanese culture distinct today. In conclusion, Sei Shonagon's The Pillow Book, through its aesthetic ideals, literary style, and insightful observations, exerts an enduring influence on contemporary Japanese culture. The work exemplifies an older Japanese tradition that values oblique expression, detachment, and informality, qualities that survive even amid modern Japan's highly regimented society. Certainly. The Pillow Book is a unique work of literature that offers a fascinating glimpse into the cultural and social mores of Heian-era Japan. The book is divided into three main sections. The first section contains Sei Shonagon's observations and reflections on life at the imperial court. The second section contains lists of various kinds, such as elegant things and displeasing things, and the third section contains poems and fragments of prose. One of the most striking features of the Pillow Book is its lyrical and poetic prose style. The distinction between Three Kingdoms interpreting and real historical events in the Three Kingdoms period. The Three Kingdoms period, 220 to 280 CE, is a tumultuous time in Chinese history, marked by political intrigue, military conflict, and cultural and technological advancements. It is a period that has captured the imagination of generations of Chinese people, and has been the subject of countless works of literature, film, and television. One of the most famous of these works is the novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms, written by Luo Guanzhong in the 14th century. However, there is often a distinction made between the events depicted in the novel and the actual historical events of the Three Kingdoms period. In this article, we will explore this distinction and its implications for our understanding of Chinese history. Romance of the Three Kingdoms is a sprawling epic that tells the story of the Three Kingdoms period, focusing on the political and military struggles between the states of Wei, Shu, and Wu. The novel is filled with colorful characters, epic battles, and complex plot twists, and has become a cultural touchstone in China and around the world. However, it is important to note that the events depicted in the novel are not always historically accurate, and that the novel should be read as a work of fiction rather than a historical record. One of the key ways in which Romance of the Three Kingdoms differs from actual historical events is in its portrayal of the main characters. The novel presents many of the key figures of the Three Kingdoms period as larger-than-life heroes and villains, with distinct personalities and motivations. For example, the novel portrays Liu Bei, the founder of the state of Shu, as a virtuous and honorable leader who is deeply committed to the well-being of his people. Similarly, the novel portrays Cao Cao, the founder of the state of Wei, as a cunning and ruthless strategist who is willing to do whatever it takes to achieve his goals. While there is some historical basis for these characterizations, they are often exaggerated in the novel for dramatic effect. In reality, the historical figures of the Three Kingdoms period were complex individuals with their own strengths and weaknesses, and their motivations and actions were often shaped by a variety of political, social, and economic factors. Another way in which Romance of the Three Kingdoms differs from actual historical events is in its portrayal of battles and military strategy. The novel depicts many epic battles and military campaigns, with vivid descriptions of soldiers and generals fighting on the battlefield. However, the novel often takes liberties with the actual historical events, exaggerating the scale and scope of battles, and presenting military strategy in a simplified and often unrealistic way. For example, the novel depicts the famous Battle of Red Cliffs, in which the forces of Wu and Shu defeated the much larger army of Wei, as a dramatic and decisive victory for the two allied states. However, historical records suggest that the battle was much more complex and nuanced, with multiple factors contributing to the outcome. Similarly, the novel often presents military strategy as a matter of individual brilliance and heroism, rather than as a complex and collaborative process involving many different actors. The distinction between the events depicted in Romance of the Three Kingdoms and actual historical events is important for our understanding of Chinese history. While the novel has had a profound impact on Chinese culture and has helped to shape the way that people think about the Three Kingdoms period, it is important to recognize that the novel is a work of fiction rather than a historical record. The events and characters depicted in the novel should be understood as literary creations, rather than as accurate representations of historical reality. At the same time, it is important to recognize that Romance of the Three Kingdoms has had a significant impact on Chinese culture and society. The novel has been read and studied for centuries, and has inspired countless works of art, literature, and popular culture. It has helped to shape the way that people think about Chinese history and has contributed to a sense of national identity and pride. In recent years, there has been a renewed interest in the actual historical events of the Three Kingdoms period, as scholars and historians seek to separate fact from fiction. This renewed interest has led to new research and discoveries, and has helped to deepen our understanding of this important period in Chinese history. In conclusion, the distinction between the events depicted in Romance of the Three Kingdoms and actual historical events is an important one, and has implications for our understanding of Chinese history. While the novel has had a profound impact on Chinese culture and has helped to shape the way that people think about the Three Kingdoms period, it is important to recognize that the novel is a work of fiction rather than a historical record. By understanding this distinction, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the complexity and nuance of Chinese history, and can continue to learn from and be inspired by this important period in human history. The popular 14th-century novel Romance of the Three Kingdoms portrays an epic tale of war, betrayal, and heroism during the Three Kingdoms period of Chinese history from 220 to 280 CE. While capturing the drama of this tumultuous era, the novel takes significant creative liberties that diverge from historical reality. Understanding the distinction between a fictionalized Three Kingdoms story and actual events during this period is important for an accurate view of history. One primary difference lies in the characters. The novel portrays legendary heroes and villains like Zhuge Liang, Guan Yu, Cao Cao, and Sima Yi in dramatic fashion, ascribing them almost godlike abilities and larger-than-life personalities. However, historical records describe these figures much more modestly, focusing on their official roles, policies, and interactions within political systems. While the protagonists had significant cultural impacts, they were ordinary people operating under complex historical circumstances rather than superhuman icons of virtue and cunning. The novel's depiction of strong central characters driving sweeping changes likely exaggerates the influence of individuals compared to reality. The depiction of events and causality also diverges significantly. The novel portrays a neatly packaged narrative of heroic figures and fated forces driving history through singular conflicts and decisive battles. But in reality, the Three Kingdoms period emerged from the complex unraveling of Han Dynasty rule due to several intertwined factors like rebellions, governmental dysfunction, economic pressures, natural disasters, and migration. No single person or event predetermined the outcomes. Rather, numerous political, economic, and social forces interacted amid considerable regional variation within a general trajectory toward partition. The novel's tight plot structure and emphasis on fate likely oversimplifies the messy, contingent processes that actually shaped historical events. The novel also embellishes details and incidents, creating symbolic value that deviates from factual accuracy. Events like Zhuge Liang's arm-waving and lantern-raising stratagems likely never occurred but exist to illustrate his inscrutable genius. Figures like Guan Yu and Zhao Yun are depicted performing superhuman feats through the magical powers of their weapons despite lacking corroborating evidence. These fictional episodes serve the narrative purpose of giving dramatic shape and moral symbolism to the story rather than reliably representing history. While they help define memorable cultural icons, they also distort the more mundane and complex reality of how political power operated during this period. In summary, While Romance of the Three Kingdoms captures the drama and significance of China's Three Kingdoms period, its fictionalized story differs substantially from actual historical events. The novel exaggerates the roles of central characters, simplifies complex causal processes, and embellishes details for dramatic effect. Understanding these differences helps avoid misconceptions of history as driven by great heroes rather than emergent from complex societal transformations. The change of Japanese culture through historical periods. Japan is a country with a rich and vibrant culture that has evolved over centuries of history. From the ancient period of Jomon to the modern era of Heisei, Japanese culture has undergone significant changes and transformations, shaped by historical events, social and political movements, and the influence of other cultures. In this article, we will explore the change of Japanese culture through historical periods. Jomon period, 14,000 BCE to 300 BCE. The Jomon period is the earliest period of Japanese history, characterized by a hunter-gatherer lifestyle and the use of pottery. During this period, Japanese culture was marked by a strong connection to nature and a reverence for the natural world. Artifacts from this period, such as pottery and figurines, often depict animals and natural scenes, reflecting the importance of the natural world in Jomon culture. Heian period, 300 BCE to 300 CE. The Heian period is marked by the introduction of rice cultivation and iron tools, which allowed for the development of a more settled and agricultural society. During this period, Japanese culture began to shift away from a hunter-gatherer lifestyle and towards a more settled way of life. The introduction of Buddhism from China and Korea also had a significant impact on Japanese culture during this period. Introducing new religious beliefs and practices that would shape Japanese culture for centuries to come. Kofun period, 300 CE to 710 CE. The Kofun period is characterized by the construction of large burial mounds, known as kofun, for members of the ruling class. During this period, Japanese culture began to develop a more centralized political system, with powerful clans competing for control of the country. The influence of Chinese culture also continued to grow during this period, with the introduction of Confucianism and the adoption of Chinese writing and architecture. Asuka period, 710 CE to 794 CE. The Asuka period is marked by the establishment of a centralized government under the leadership of the Yamato clan. During this period, Japanese culture continued to be influenced by Chinese culture, with the adoption of Buddhism and the introduction of a centralized bureaucratic system. The period also saw the development of a unique Japanese style of art and architecture, characterized by the use of natural materials and a focus on simplicity and elegance. Nara period, 794 CE to 1185 CE. The Nara period is characterized by the establishment of a permanent capital at Nara and the adoption of Chinese-style court rituals and ceremonies. The period also saw the development of a unique Japanese script, known as kana, which allowed for the widespread dissemination of literature and other written materials. During this period, Japanese culture continued to evolve, with new forms of art, literature, and music emerging. Heian period, 794 CE to 1185 CE. The Heian period is often considered the height of classical Japanese culture, marked by the development of a refined court culture that emphasized elegance, beauty, and refinement. During this period, Japanese literature flourished, with the creation of such classics as The Tale of Genji and The Pillow Book. The period also saw the development of a unique Japanese aesthetic, characterized by a love of natural beauty, simplicity, and elegance. Kamakura period, 1185 CE to 1333 CE. The Kamakura period is marked by the rise of the samurai class and the establishment of a feudal system of government under the shoguns. During this period, Japanese culture became more militaristic and focused on discipline, duty, and honor. The period also saw the emergence of new forms of art and literature, such as the poetry of the warrior class and the No theater. Muromachi period, 1336 CE to 1573 CE. The Muromachi period is characterized by the rise of the Ashikaga shogunate and the emergence of a new warrior class, known as the daimyo. During this period, Japanese culture continued to evolve, with new forms of art, literature, and music emerging. The period also saw the introduction of new forms of Buddhism, such as Zen, which emphasized meditation and mindfulness. Edo period, 1603 CE to 1868 CE. The Edo period is marked by the establishment of the Tokugawa shogunate and the emergence of a new urban culture centered around the city of Edo, modern-day Tokyo. During this period, Japanese culture underwent significant changes, with the development of a vibrant popular culture that included kabuki theater, ukiyo-e prints, and literature aimed at a mass audience. The period also saw the emergence of new forms of martial arts, such as judo and kendo. Meiji period, 1868 CE to 1912 CE. The Meiji period is marked by the restoration of imperial rule and the modernization of Japanese society. During this period, Japanese culture underwent significant changes, with the adoption of Western-style institutions and practices. The period saw the introduction of new technologies, such as the railroad and telegraph, and the development of a modern educational system. The period also saw the emergence of a new form of literature, known as the I-novel, which emphasized the individual experience and perspective. Taisho period, 1912 CE to 1926 CE. The Taisho period is marked by a period of cultural and artistic experimentation, with new forms of literature, art, and music emerging. During this period, Japanese culture was influenced by Western modernism, with artists and writers exploring new forms of expression and experimentation. The period also saw the emergence of new social movements, such as feminism and socialism, which challenged traditional Japanese values and practices. Showa period, 1926 CE to 1989 CE. The Showa period is marked by the rise of militarism and the Second World War, as well as the subsequent period of reconstruction and economic growth. During this period, Japanese culture underwent significant changes, with the adoption of new technologies and practices. The period also saw the emergence of new forms of popular culture, such as manga and anime, which have since become global phenomena. Heisei period, 1989 CE. Present. The Heisei period is marked by a period of economic stagnation and social change, as well as the emergence of new forms of culture and expression. During this period, Japanese culture has been influenced by globalization and the rise of new technologies, with new forms of art, literature, and music emerging. The period has also seen the emergence of new social movements, such as environmentalism and LGBTQ+ rights, which have challenged traditional Japanese values and practices. In conclusion, the change of Japanese culture through historical periods reflects the complex and multifaceted nature of Japanese history and society. From the ancient period of Jomon to the modern era of Heisei, Japanese culture has undergone significant Changes and transformations, shaped by historical events, social and political movements, and the influence of other cultures. By understanding the evolution of Japanese culture over time, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the richness and diversity of Japanese history and society. Japanese culture has undergone significant changes and developments throughout history as Japan transitioned from an isolated agrarian society to a global economic powerhouse. Different historical periods have introduced new influences, technologies, and ideas that have transformed and shaped Japanese culture in myriad ways. Some of the most pronounced changes have occurred during the following key periods. Ancient Japan, 300 BCE to 710 CE, saw the emergence of Japan's initial cultural identity during the Yamato period. Indigenous Shinto religion and Japanese mythological stories developed, centering around the emperor as a divine figure. Chinese cultural influences began via introduction of Confucianism, Taoism and Buddhism, which transformed art, literature and philosophy. Though filtered through a Japanese lens, these influences laid the groundwork for many aspects of traditional culture. The Heian period, 794 to 1185, witnessed the flowering of a distinctly Japanese culture centered around the imperial court in Kyoto. Aristocratic culture produced literature like The Tale of Genji, a psychological novel that became one of Japan's foremost classics. The originality and importance of Tan Three Kingdoms and the Good, classic of this work. The Three Kingdoms is a classic Chinese novel that has been widely read and celebrated for centuries. It tells the story of the Three Kingdoms period in Chinese history, which lasted from 220 to 280 AD. The novel has been adapted into countless movies, TV shows, and video games, and has become a beloved part of Chinese culture. However, in recent years, a new adaptation of the novel has emerged, New Three Kingdoms. This adaptation has been praised for its originality and importance, as well as for its ability to capture the timeless themes and characters of the original novel. One of the key strengths of New Three Kingdoms is its originality. While the original novel is a classic work of literature, it can also be daunting for modern readers to approach. The language and style of the novel can be difficult to navigate, and the sheer length of the work, over 1,000 pages in some editions, can be intimidating. New Three Kingdoms, on the other hand, offers a fresh and accessible take on the story, making it more approachable for modern audiences. New Three Kingdoms also stands out for its attention to detail and its fidelity to the original novel. The show's creators have clearly done their homework, paying close attention to the history and culture of the Three Kingdoms period, as well as to the characters and themes of the original novel. This attention to detail has helped to create a rich and immersive world that feels true to the source material. Despite its fidelity to the original novel, however, New Three Kingdoms is not merely a retelling of the same story. The show's creators have made a number of interesting and innovative choices that set it apart from other adaptations of the novel. For example, the show's depiction of the character Cao Cao is particularly noteworthy. In the original novel, Cao Cao is often portrayed as a villain, a ruthless and power-hungry leader who will stop at nothing to achieve his goals. In New Three Kingdoms, however, Cao Cao is portrayed in a more sympathetic light. The show explores his motivations and his inner struggles, showing him as a complex and nuanced character rather than a one-dimensional villain. Another aspect of New Three Kingdoms that has been praised by viewers and critics alike is its production values. The show boasts high-quality production design, costumes, and special effects, creating a visually stunning world that feels both authentic and cinematic. The cinematography and editing are also top-notch, with a sense of pacing and momentum that keeps viewers engaged and invested in the story. Beyond its technical and artistic merits, however, New Three Kingdoms is an important work in its own right. The story of the Three Kingdoms period is a foundational part of Chinese history and culture, and the novel is an important literary work that has had a profound impact on Chinese literature and culture for centuries. New Three Kingdoms offers a fresh and relevant take on this classic story, helping to keep it alive and relevant for modern audiences. Moreover, the themes and characters of New Three Kingdoms are timeless and universal, speaking to fundamental human experiences and emotions. The show explores themes of loyalty, betrayal, power, and love, all of which are as relevant today as they were in ancient China. The characters of the show are also deeply relatable, with their struggles and triumphs resonating with viewers of all backgrounds and cultures. In many ways, New Three Kingdoms is a classic work in its own right, standing alongside the original novel as a testament to the enduring power and relevance of this timeless story. Its originality, attention to detail, and production values all contribute to its status as a modern classic, while its importance as a cultural and literary work cannot be overstated. In conclusion, New Three Kingdoms is a remarkable achievement, standing as both a tribute to the original novel and a compelling work in its own right. Its originality, attention to detail, and production values all contribute to its status as a modern classic, while its importance as a cultural and literary work cannot be overstated. The show is a testament to the enduring power and relevance of the story of the Three Kingdoms. And a reminder of the universal themes and characters that continue to captivate audiences around the world. The Chinese historical novel New Three Kingdoms is widely considered one of the greatest works in the history of Chinese literature. Written by Xi Nian and Luo Guanzhong in the 14th and 15th centuries, the novel retells the story of the Three Kingdoms period during the 2nd and 3rd centuries AD. The originality and literary brilliance of New Three Kingdoms comes from several aspects. First, the story itself is very original. The historical figures from the Three Kingdoms period like Liu Bei, Guan Yu, Zhang Fei, and Zhuge Liang have become iconic in Chinese culture. However, New Three Kingdoms adds many new fictional characters and plot elements that were not part of the actual history. Famous characters like Zhao Yun, Xiao Chao, and Daiokan brought rich drama, emotion, and romance to the story that elevated it beyond a historical account into great literature. Second, the novel popularized the tone and style of martial chivalry literature, now synonymous with stories of the Three Kingdoms period. The emphasis on honor, bravery, brotherhood, and loyalty created a more elevated tone compared to previous vernacular fiction. The battle descriptions, heroic deeds, and political intrigues captured the imagination of readers and became a model for later works. Third, the complexity of the characters is unprecedented in Chinese literature at the time. Figures like Liu Bei, Cao Cao, and Sun Quan were depicted as multidimensional, containing both positive and negative traits. In particular, Zhuge Liang became an archetype of the wise strategist whose intellectual maneuvering drives much of the plot. Lady Zhurong and Daiokan as female characters also blended intellect, beauty and cunning in sophisticated ways. Fourth, the elaborate and continuous plotting keeps readers engaged across the 120 chapters of the novel. The meticulous planning of military maneuvers, political alliances, and assassinations created an epic plot that spanned decades. The constant betrayals, reversals of fortune, and tragic heroism maintained a high level of suspense and drama for readers. Fifth, the use of language and prose elevated the novel beyond the simple vernacular fiction of its time. The text contains poetic passages, lyrical descriptions of nature, and elegant speeches from characters, elements not found in other works from the Yuan dynasty. The language allowed for a more sophisticated portrayal of emotions, motivation, and the characters' inner lives. In summary, the New Three Kingdoms revolutionized Chinese literature through the combination of originality in characters, plot, theme, and style. The intense human drama, complex depictions of loyalty and betrayal, and larger-than-life heroic figures have fascinated readers for centuries. The novel has inspired countless later works through its mastery of fictionalization of history, and the tensions between honor and expediency, justice and power. Ultimately, New Three Kingdoms rises above being merely an historical account, and achieves the level of great literature through its originality, complex characterization, and moral depth. As one of the earliest vernacular novels in Chinese, it represents an inflection point in the development of Chinese literature. Interest in love and sex in Japanese literature. Japanese literature has a rich and diverse tradition that spans centuries, and throughout this tradition, there has been a persistent interest in love and sex. From the romantic poetry of the Heian period to the erotic novels of the Edo period, Japanese literature has explored the many facets of these universal human experiences in a variety of ways. In this article, we will examine the role of love and sex in Japanese literature and how it has evolved over time. Love and sex have been prominent themes in Japanese literature since its earliest days. In the Heian period, 794-1185, a time of great cultural flourishing and artistic achievement, love and romance were celebrated in the poetry and prose of the courtly elite. The Tale of Genji, written by Murasaki Shikibu, is perhaps the most famous example of this tradition. The novel tells the story of the romantic exploits of the fictional prince Genji and his many lovers, and it is notable for its lyrical, sensual language and its frank portrayal of sexual desire. In the centuries that followed, love and sex continued to be important themes in Japanese literature, but they took on different forms. During the Kamakura period, 1185 to 1333, for example, the warrior class began to rise to prominence, and the literature of the period reflects this shift. The Haikemonogatari, a famous epic poem of the period, tells the story of the struggle for power between two rival clans, and while love and romance are not the primary focus of the poem, they are still present in the form of tragic love affairs and unrequited love. In the Edo period, 1603 to 1868, a time of relative peace and stability, the arts and literature flourished once again. However, the focus on love and sex shifted once again, this time towards the erotic. The ukiyo-e woodblock prints of the time featured explicit sexual imagery. And novels such as The Life of an Amorous Woman by Ihara Saikaku explored the world of prostitution and sexual desire in great detail. In the modern era, Japanese literature continues to explore the themes of love and sex, but in new and different ways. Contemporary Japanese writers such as Haruki Murakami and Banana Yoshimoto have gained international acclaim for their explorations of love and sexuality in the modern world. Murakami's novels, such as Norwegian Wood and Kafka on the Shore, feature explicit sexual content and explore themes of desire, loneliness, and longing. Yoshimoto's work, such as Kitchen and Goodbye Tsugumi, also deal with themes of love and sexuality, but in a more understated and poetic way. One of the ways in which love and sex are explored in Japanese literature is through the use of symbolism and metaphor. In many works of Japanese literature, love and sex are not depicted explicitly, but rather hinted at through the use of subtle imagery. For example, the cherry blossom, a symbol of transience and beauty, is often used to represent the fleeting nature of love and desire. The moon, with its associations with femininity and mystery, is another common symbol in Japanese literature that is often used to evoke feelings of romantic longing and desire. Another way in which love and sex are explored in Japanese literature is through the concept of mono no aware, which can be translated as the pathos of things. This concept, which originated in the Heian period, refers to a deep appreciation for the beauty and transience of life. In the context of love and sex, mono no aware refers to the bittersweet nature of these experiences, and the idea that they are both beautiful and fleeting. This concept is often reflected in Japanese literature, particularly in works that focus on the theme of unrequited love or unfulfilled desire. Love and sex in Japanese literature also reflect the cultural values and attitudes of Japanese society. In traditional Japanese culture, there was a strict separation between the public and private spheres, and sex was often seen as a private matter that should not be discussed openly. This attitude can be seen in works of literature such as The Pillow Book by Sei Shonagon, which offers a glimpse into the private world of courtly love and desire, but does so in a discreet and subtle way. In modern Japanese society, attitudes towards sex have become more open and liberal, and this is reflected in contemporary Japanese literature. Works such as In the Miso Soup by Ryu Murakami explore the darker side of sexuality, including prostitution, pornography, and sexual violence. These works can be seen as a reflection of the changing attitudes towards sex in Japanese society, and a willingness to explore the darker, more taboo aspects of human desire. In conclusion, love and sex have been prominent themes in Japanese literature throughout its long and rich tradition. From the romantic poetry of the Heian period to the erotic novels of the Edo period, and the modern works of Haruki Murakami and Banana Yoshimoto, Japanese literature has explored the many facets of these universal human experiences in a variety of ways. Whether through symbolism and metaphor, the concept of mono no aware or amour, frank and explicit portrayal, love and sex in Japanese literature reflect the cultural values and attitudes of Japanese society, and offer a window into the complex and multifaceted nature of human desire. Love and sex have long been subjects of immense interest for Japanese writers and readers. From the passionate lyrical poems of the Heian era to modern novels exploring sexuality and gender, Japanese literature has consistently engaged with themes of eroticism, intimate connection, and the complex interplay between physical and emotional desire. This enduring fascination with love and sexuality stems from several sources, including Japan's rich artistic heritage, its conservative social mores, and an emphasis on relationality within Japanese culture. In the Heian period, 794 to 1185 CE, courtly poems like the Tale of Genji captured intimate, often torrid love affairs in exquisite lyrical language. The eponymous Genji experiences a series of romantic liaisons, described in lush, sensual terms. This keen sensibility for the emotional and physical elements of love relationships highlights love and eroticism as compelling subjects of artistic representation within Japan's early literary culture. Poetry became a medium for expressing, celebrating, and even sacralizing human sexuality and romantic love. The aesthetic ideals that emerged during this period, valuing love and desire as profound sources of creative inspiration, shaped Japanese conceptions of literature's purpose and potential for centuries to come. Conservative social mores and gender segregation also spurred Japanese writers' imaginative engagement with the hidden dimensions of love and sex. Traditional Confucian-influenced values constrained public expressions of sexuality, while long periods of isolation between the sexes created an underlying curiosity about intimate connection. Literature offered a safe medium for exploring erotic fantasies and desires between men and women that could not be freely enacted in real life. The parallel world of novels and poems allowed Japanese writers and readers to imaginatively transgress social conventions surrounding gender, sex, and romantic love. This dynamic of contrast between restrictive social norms and creative freedom of literary expression has continued to fuel Japanese artistic interest in love and sexuality through the ages. An emphasis on relationality within Japanese culture further explains literature's enduring exploration of intimate connections. Historian Christopher Harding argues that the Japanese concept of self arises fundamentally through relationships with others. The development of the philosophy of religion through the classics of the world. The philosophy of religion is a field of inquiry that has been studied for thousands of years, and its development can be traced through the classics of the world's major religious traditions. From the Vedas of ancient India to the works of St. Augustine and the Christian tradition, the classics of the world have explored the nature of God, the meaning of existence, and the relationship between humanity and the divine. In this article, we will examine the development of the philosophy of religion through the classics of the world. Ancient India, the Vedas and Upanishads. The Vedas are a collection of ancient Hindu texts that were composed between 1500 and 500 BCE. These texts are among the oldest religious texts in the world, and they offer a window into the early development of Hindu philosophy. The Vedas contain hymns, prayers, and rituals that are dedicated to various gods and goddesses, and they explore the nature of existence and the relationship between humanity and the divine. The Upanishads are a group of texts that were composed between 800 and 400 BCE, and they represent a major philosophical shift in Hinduism. The Upanishads are concerned with the nature of the self, the ultimate reality, and the relationship between the two. They introduce the concept of Brahman, the ultimate reality that underlies all existence, and Atman, the individual self that is identical to Brahman. The Upanishads are a foundational text in Hindu philosophy and have influenced the development of other philosophical traditions, such as Buddhism. Ancient Greece, Plato and Aristotle. In ancient Greece, the philosophy of religion was explored through the works of Plato and Aristotle. Plato's Republic and Phaedo explore the nature of the soul, the immortality of the soul, and the relationship between the soul and the divine. Plato believed that the soul was immortal and that it existed prior to and after physical death. He also believed in the existence of a divine realm, which he called the forms, that was the source of all reality. Aristotle, on the other hand, was more concerned with the nature of the physical world and the relationship between the physical world and the divine. He believed that the universe was eternal and that it was governed by natural laws. He also believed in the existence of a prime mover, a divine being that was responsible for setting the universe in motion. Early Christianity, Street. Augustine. In early Christianity, the philosophy of religion was explored through the works of Street. Augustine. Augustine's Confessions and City of God are concerned with the nature of God, the problem of evil, and the relationship between humanity and the divine. Augustine believed that God was the source of all existence and that humanity's ultimate goal was to achieve a union with God. He also believed that evil was a result of humanity's separation from God and that the only way to overcome evil was through a deepening of one's relationship with God. Medieval Islam, Al-Ghazali. In medieval Islam, the philosophy of religion was explored through the works of Al-Ghazali. Al-Ghazali's The Incoherence of the Philosophers and the Revival of Religious Sciences are concerned with the relationship between reason and faith, the nature of God, and the afterlife. Al-Ghazali believed that reason was limited and that true knowledge of God could only be obtained through faith and spiritual experience. He also believed in the existence of an afterlife and the importance of moral conduct in achieving a favorable outcome in the afterlife. Renaissance Europe, Thomas Aquinas. In Renaissance Europe, the philosophy of religion was explored through the works of Thomas Aquinas. Aquinas' Summa Theologica is a comprehensive examination of the nature of God, the relationship between humanity and the divine, and the existence of evil. Aquinas believed in the existence of a single, all-powerful God who was the source of all creation. He also believed that humanity's ultimate goal was to achieve a union with God and that this could be accomplished through a life of moral conduct and spiritual contemplation. Modern times, Immanuel Kant and Friedrich Nietzsche. In modern times, the philosophy of religion has been explored through the works of Immanuel Kant and Friedrich Nietzsche. Kant's Critique of Pure Reason and Critique of Practical Reason are concerned with the nature of God, the limits of reason, and the relationship between morality and religion. Kant believed that the existence of God could not be proven through reason alone and that morality was independent of religion. Nietzsche, on the other hand, was a critic of traditional religious beliefs and values. His works, such as Thus Spoke Zarathustra and Beyond Good and Evil, are concerned with the nature of morality, the role of religion in society, and the concept of the will to power. Nietzsche believed that traditional religious beliefs and values were limiting and that humanity needed to embrace a new, more life-affirming philosophy. In conclusion, the philosophy of religion has been explored through the classics of the world's major religious traditions. From the Vedas of ancient India to the works of St. Augustine in early Christianity, the classics of the world have explored the nature of God, the meaning of existence, and the relationship between humanity and the divine. Through the works of Plato, Aristotle, Al-Ghazali, Aquinas, Kant, and Nietzsche, the philosophy of religion has continued to evolve and develop, offering new insights into these timeless questions. The major world religions have spawned remarkable philosophical insights into questions of the divine, faith, and human spirituality. The classics of various religious traditions have grappled with questions about the nature of God, the role of reason. In religious belief, the problem of evil, and the relation between wisdom and faith. Over history, these texts have influenced each other and collectively shaped the development of philosophy of religion as an academic discipline. The Upanishads, ancient Indian texts which form part of the Hindu Vedas, provide some of the earliest philosophical reflections on religion. Dating from around 1200 to 500 BCE, the Upanishads debate concepts such as Atman, the human soul, Brahman, the ultimate spiritual reality, and the relationships between self, world, and God. They pose foundational questions about how to attain spiritual knowledge and liberation that would profoundly influence later philosophers. The mystic insights of the Upanishads especially shaped key Islamic philosophers like Ibn Arabi, who attempted to synthesize Hindu and Islamic religious thought. Similarly, the massive corpus of Buddhist scriptures spanning many centuries contains influential philosophical reflections on the nature of human suffering, the goal of liberation, and the spiritual path. The 4th century Buddha presented epistemological arguments for the non-existence of God and analyzed key religious concepts like karma and rebirth without reference to a divine creator. His skeptical questioning of established beliefs challenged religious authorities while planting seeds for a more reasoned approach to faith. Buddhist philosophy thus contributed to early debates on religious rationality that informed later European thinkers. In the Judeo-Christian tradition, the Bible's notion of a rational creator who reveals truth through divine communication shaped foundational ideas of Western theism. Biblical books like Job, Ecclesiastes, and Psalms wrestled profoundly with the problem of evil and human longing for God. Jewish and early Christian philosophers built on these roots, developing sophisticated theological formulations of God's omnipotence, omniscience, and goodness. Later Christian scholastic philosophers like Aquinas formulated rational proofs for God's existence based on biblical revelation and Aristotelian thought. Diversity of classic literary genres in the contemporary world. Write an article in English 1,400 words long on the topic diversity of classic literary genres in the contemporary world. Classic literary genres have been a part of human culture for centuries, with works such as epic poems, plays, and novels standing the test of time and becoming timeless classics. However, in the contemporary world, the literary landscape has become more diverse than ever before, with new genres emerging and traditional genres evolving to reflect the changing times. In this article, we will explore the diversity of classic literary genres in the contemporary world. The novel is perhaps the most well-known and enduring literary genre. With classic works such as Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen and The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald still being widely read and studied today. However, in the contemporary world, the novel has undergone significant changes and diversification. New subgenres such as dystopian and post-apocalyptic fiction have emerged, reflecting the anxieties of the modern world. Additionally, there has been a growing interest in diverse voices and perspectives, with more and more novels being written by authors from marginalized communities. In recent years, there has also been a resurgence in interest in memoirs and personal essays. These genres allow writers to share their own experiences and perspectives with readers, often in a highly personalized and intimate way. Memoirs and personal essays are often used to explore issues such as identity, race, and politics, and can provide readers with a window into the lived experiences of others. Another classic literary genre that has undergone significant changes in the contemporary world is poetry. While traditional poetic forms such as sonnets and haikus still remain popular, there has been a growing interest in experimental and avant-garde poetry. These new forms of poetry often challenge traditional notions of what poetry should be, using unconventional language and structures to explore complex themes and ideas. Additionally, there has been a growing interest in spoken word poetry, with poets using performance and multimedia to bring their work to new audiences. Drama and theater have also evolved in the contemporary world, with new forms of theater emerging to reflect the changing times. Experimental theater, immersive theater, and interactive theater have all become increasingly popular in recent years, providing audiences with new and innovative ways to engage with the theatrical experience. Additionally, there has been a growing interest in theater that promotes social justice and activism, with plays and performances addressing issues such as racism, sexism, and homophobia. Short fiction has also undergone significant changes in the contemporary world. While short stories have long been a popular literary form, new subgenres such as flash fiction and microfiction have emerged, reflecting the changing attention spans of modern readers. These new forms of short fiction often use language and structure in innovative ways, creating powerful and impactful stories in a limited amount of space. Graphic novels and comics have also become increasingly popular in the contemporary world. These works combine text and visuals to tell complex and engaging stories, often exploring themes and ideas that are difficult to convey through words alone. Graphic novels and comics have also become a powerful tool for social commentary and activism, with works such as Persepolis by Marjane Satrapi and March by John Lewis and Nate Powell addressing issues such as politics, race, and social justice. In conclusion, classic literary genres have undergone significant changes and diversification in the contemporary world, reflecting the changing times and evolving cultural landscape. New genres and subgenres have emerged, each offering their own unique perspectives on the human experience. As the literary landscape continues to evolve, it is likely that we will see even more diversification and innovation in classic literary genres, as writers and artists continue to push the boundaries of what is possible in the world of literature. Classic literary genres like epic poems, sonnets, tragedies, and Bildungsromans continue to thrive in the contemporary world despite radical changes in society, culture, and technology. While literature has evolved to incorporate new forms like graphic novels, blog posts, and Instagram poetry, traditional genres remain enormously popular and influential. Writers continue to use classic genres as frameworks for exploring universal human experiences in innovative and distinctively modern ways. The endurance of genres like tragedy, comedy, epic, and romance reveals literature's ability to adapt enduring archetypes to new social and historical contexts. Epic poetry remains a key literary genre, though contemporary epics often portray postmodern disillusionment rather than heroic valor. Epics like Cormac McCarthy's The Road and Colson Whitehead's The Nickel Boys employ post-apocalyptic and historical settings to critique contemporary social issues. Their sagas of human struggle and endurance critique modern society through the expansive scope and rhetoric of the epic form. Contemporary women writers like Linda Hogan, Louise Erdrich, and Leslie Marmon Silko have also reinvigorated the Native American epic tradition to express indigenous perspectives and experiences of oppression. The continued popularity of the epic genre shows how literature adapts archetypes of quest and struggle to illuminate modern truths through large-scale narratives. The sonnet, an intricately structured 14-line poem, remains vital in contemporary poetry. Modern poets manipulate the sonnet's rigid rules and traditional themes of love, nature, and melancholy to convey experiences of social change and political upheaval. Poets like Claude McKay, Gwendolyn Brooks, and Rita Dove infuse the sonnet form with themes of racial identity, migrant experience, and gender politics. Alternative sonnet sequences written by poets like Alice Walker critique long-standing forms to express marginalized perspectives. The sonnet's musicality and constraints inspire innovative reinventions, proving classic genres remain malleable vessels for diverse contemporary subject matter. Similarly, the tragedy retains relevance by adapting conventions to settings and characters that interrogate modern society. Contemporary tragedies like Tony Kushner's Angels in America and Susan Laurie Parks's Top Dog/Underdog reimagine the genre's tropes of fate, heroism, and catharsis in the context of the AIDS crisis and urban poverty. Wole Soyinka's Death and the King's Horseman and Chinese author Ken Shui's Padzilla adapt the tragic mode to explore colonialism and modern alienation. The tragic genre continues to generate profound insights into human suffering by placing characters within structures of power that defy individual will. Genre conventions thus adapt to illuminate universal truths in specific historical and cultural contexts. In summary, classic literary genres like epic poetry, sonnets, comedies, and tragedies continue to thrive in the contemporary world through innovative adaptations of archetypes to modern contexts. Writers reinvigorate traditional genres through experimentation, often employing genre conventions to critique and subvert dominant social narratives. Whether exploring the post-apocalyptic wasteland in epic form or illuminating marginalized perspectives through the sonnet, contemporary reinventions reveal the adaptability and continued relevance of archetypes founded on universal human experiences. Classic genres thus offer flexible frameworks for modern literature to explore truths about society, identity, and human nature in distinctive and provocative ways. Literature's diversity emerges not only from new forms but also from the endless creative ways classic genres reimagine established conventions. The world of literature is vast and varied, encompassing a wide range of genres that have evolved over time.